Life can feel incredibly tough, or it can be amazing, exciting, inspiring, and full of passion. Believe it or not, life can feel that way all the time. Most people don't believe this because of how deeply ingrained their thinking is about life. Here's how most of us see it. If something I want happens, I'm happy. If something I don't want happens, I'm upset. Simple, right? But here's the problem. This way of thinking runs our entire lives. We're constantly trying to get the things we want and avoid the things we don't want. We focus on controlling the moments in front of us so they make us feel good and avoid anything that might upset us. There are two ways to live life. One is shallow and doesn't really work. The other is deep and meaningful. The shallow way says, if I get what I want, I'm happy. If I get what I don't want, I'm upset. But no one asks the deeper question. How did I even decide what I want in the first place? That's the root of it all. If you don't examine this, life becomes a constant struggle. You're not just struggling with what's happening right now. You're also struggling with what you think will happen in the future. If the future doesn't look the way you want, even though it hasn't happened yet, you feel unhappy. And if you think something bad might happen, you get anxious or upset. The same goes for the past. If something happened that you didn't want, you wish it hadn't happened, but there's no changing it. Yet, we fight against it anyway. Why? Because we believe it shouldn't have happened. But here's the truth. It did. No matter how much you wish otherwise, it happened. There's no time machine to undo it. You might think, but it wasn't supposed to happen. Sorry to break it to you, it did happen. And it always will have happened. You can't change the past, no matter how much you want to. The same goes for the future. Something you don't want might happen. Something you do want might happen. You don't know, and neither do I. But if your happiness depends on controlling every moment, past, present, or future, you're setting yourself up for struggle. The real question is this. Do you want to spend your life trying to control what happens, what has already happened, and what might happen? Or do you want to go deeper and find a way to live where you're not tied to this endless struggle? That's the heart of the spiritual journey. Learning to let go of this need for control and discovering a more peaceful, meaningful way to live. You have a choice. Do you want to spend your life trying to control and manipulate everything around you to fit what you want and avoid what you don't want? Or, and don't panic, do you want to take a deeper look at why you want certain things and why you don't want others? Here's the truth. That's completely up to you. You can decide what you want and don't want. But if you focus on controlling everything outside of you, then every little thing becomes your responsibility. How people act, what they say, what they wear, and how life unfolds. You end up trying to manage everything that happens in the world. Can you imagine how exhausting that is? Now let's flip the script. Instead of focusing outward, you can focus inward and ask the big question. How did I decide what I want? Why do I think this is so important? Is it really some universal truth that I must have this to be happy? Or is it just something I told myself? If you're always working outside to make yourself feel okay, it's a constant battle. You feel stress, anxiety, worry, and fear. Why? Because life doesn't always go the way you want. But if you work inside, on yourself, you can start to see things differently. That's what the spiritual journey is all about. Here's why we suffer. You decided how you wanted life to be, and it didn't turn out that way. You also decided how you didn't want life to be, But then it did happen. When you don't get what you want, you feel disappointed, upset, or even anxious. And when something you don't want happens, you might get angry, question everything, or wonder why life seems unfair. This is a choice we all face. You can keep pouring your energy into trying to control what happens around you, spending your willpower, effort, and mental energy to force life to fit your expectations. Honestly, it's a losing game. But that's how most people live. Or you can make a radical shift. What if, instead of trying to change everything, you decide to like what happens? I know, it sounds like cheating, right? Like skipping all the struggle and just deciding to be okay with things as they are. But why not? Who says you can't? Here's the key. Outside, you can't always control what happens. Life is unpredictable. But inside, you have complete freedom. You can decide how to see things, how to feel about them, and how to respond. No one can take that away from you. So, if it's true that getting what you want makes you happy, then what happens when you get something you really, really, really want? You get really, really happy, right? But here's the thing. Who's stopping you from being in charge of that? Who says you can't decide, I want this, and I like this, on purpose and with full awareness? Let's look at a simple example. You're driving down the road and someone cuts you off. You slam on your brakes, skid a bit, but you don't hit anything. Exciting, isn't it? Or let's say you do hit something. Now you get to meet the insurance people, talk to the police, and deal with all of that. It's a whole new experience. And honestly, it's only bad if you decide it's bad. This is the essence of spirituality. It's not about sitting in meditation, following gurus, or adopting some complicated practice. It's about realizing I'm the one inside here. Nobody else is in your mind but you. Your parents aren't in there. Your friends aren't in there. You live in what I like to call a single occupancy apartment. You're the only one in there. So if it's messy in there, guess who made the mess? Now let's be honest. People often blame their inner mess on the outside world. But my parents mistreated me. Things happened that I didn't like. Sure, things happened, but your parents aren't inside your head anymore. You're the one storing all those experiences, those emotions, and those reactions. You're the one who decided to suppress and hold on to every little thing that upset you. Think about it. If you've been storing every single disturbing event inside yourself, what's your inner world going to feel like? Cluttered, chaotic, disturbed. And that's the problem. Nobody ever told you to let go of these things. Instead, the world taught you to focus on getting what you want, how to attract success, look good, be liked, and impress others. That's what we're told success is, achieving things that momentarily make us feel good. But is that really success? No, it's what I call conditional well-being. Your happiness is entirely dependent on certain conditions being met. You're happy if you have money, if the stock market doesn't crash, if people like you, or if you get the corner office. But what happens when those conditions change? If the corner office goes to someone else, how do you feel then? Not so great. Here's the wake-up call. If your well-being depends on constantly manipulating the outside world to get what you want, you're setting yourself up for endless struggle. Why? Because the outside world is unpredictable. It's always changing, and you can't control it. So, why not shift your focus? Instead of trying to manage the outside world, why not look inward? Why not decide to be okay no matter what happens? This isn't some strange or impossible idea. It's actually what people mean by positive thinking. It's about realizing you have the power to decide how you feel, regardless of what's happening outside. That's real freedom. It's not about controlling the world. It's about letting go of the need to control it and finding peace within yourself. Now think about this. If you're the one deciding whether you're happy, upset, or anything else, why not pause and ask yourself why you've chosen to want certain things instead of just chasing them? Instead of constantly plotting how to get what you want, maybe you could question why you want it in the first place. That doesn't mean you stop working toward things. It means you start with happiness already inside you, no matter what. You might wonder, how can I be happy if someone I love dies? The answer isn't about ignoring the pain. It's about appreciating it. Pain is part of life's experience. You don't suppress it. You welcome it. You say, wow, look how deeply my heart can feel, even in pain. Other times, your heart might feel full of joy and love. Both are part of life's beauty. When you truly wake up, you realize something amazing. You're not your emotions or your thoughts. You're the one who notices those emotions and thoughts. That's called witness consciousness. It's seeing yourself as the awareness behind everything you feel. When your heart bursts with love or breaks from loss, it's the same you experiencing both. You're the constant in all of life's ups and downs. So, what does this mean? It means you can honor every part of life, the good, the bad, and everything in between. You can appreciate every moment, even the painful ones, and say, thank you for this experience. Life is short and it's full of moments unfolding before you. Why resist them? Why suppress them? Instead, you can embrace them and stay grateful for the journey. People might say, you can't be happy all the time. But yes, you can. Deep inside, you can stay peaceful, even while feeling sorrow, pain, or loss. There's nothing wrong with those feelings. They're part of being human. A healthy person doesn't suppress emotions. They experience them fully without letting them take over. Here's an example. Imagine someone said something hurtful to you yesterday. You might think, I can't believe they said that. I'd never say that to anyone. And now you're upset all day. Why? Because out of 8.3 billion people on Earth, one person said something to you, and your ego didn't like it. Isn't that silly? Instead of getting upset, try saying, I wonder why they said that. Interesting. Notice how your ego reacts and think, isn't that funny? You'll feel lighter and freer when you stop letting little things control your happiness. Look around you. Earth is extraordinary. We've sent probes and rovers to other planets, Mars, Jupiter, all of them. And what did we find? Nothing. Just barren landscapes. When was the last time you looked outside and saw nothing here on Earth? Never. This planet is bursting with colors, shapes, people, and endless experiences. You've won the cosmic lottery. But instead of appreciating it, you're tangled up in tiny dramas. Why not wake up and see the gift of life? You've got so much here. Technology, art, people who care for you, hospitals, and even X-ray machines. Life is incredible if you choose to see it that way. The only thing stopping you from enjoying it is you. Now, here's the challenge. Decide to be okay, unconditionally. Not, I'll be okay if people treat me right, say what I want, or behave the way I expect. No, real freedom is saying, I can handle myself. I can handle anything that happens. Imagine reaching a place where nothing can shake you. where you're calm, peaceful, and steady no matter what life throws at you. That's mastery. What does it mean to be a master? Think of a master golfer. They've mastered the game of golf. A master pianist? They've mastered playing music. A master of life? That's someone who's at peace with every moment, no matter what unfolds. It doesn't mean they're successful by society's standards, or that they never fail. It means they've let go of worrying about the future because they know they'll handle whatever comes. This is what I want for you. But here's the catch. As long as you believe you can't handle what might happen, you'll always worry. Worrying doesn't stop bad things from happening. It just drains your energy. You can buy insurance, make plans, or take vows, thinking they'll protect you from uncertainty. But guess what? Life is unpredictable. Even your safety nets can fail, and then you'll worry about those too. So here's the truth. The only way to stop worrying is to know deep down that you can handle anything life throws your way. That's the key. When you reach that point, you'll finally be free. Until then, worrying will follow you everywhere. You might spend a lot of time worrying about what could go wrong. But what if there's nothing in life you can't handle? It doesn't mean you already know how to handle it. And it doesn't mean you have to control everything or force anything to happen. Instead, you can face whatever comes, not with worry or fear, but with love, excitement, and joy. Life is like a sport, and sports are meant to be fun, even though they're challenging. If you hate the game, you're not really playing it the way it's meant to be played. Imagine a professional football team playing against kindergarteners. It wouldn't be fun or exciting, because it wouldn't challenge them. Life is the same. It's meant to challenge you, to push you, to engage you. Think about the Olympics. Why do athletes set up hurdles on a track and then run over them? It seems strange, right? But they do it because it's exciting, and they love the challenge. That's what life is all about. Every moment is an opportunity to step up, to bring out your best, not to just win or get what you want, but to fully enjoy the process of living and engaging with life itself. Imagine waking up every day and thinking, wow, I'm here again. I wonder what's going to happen today. You don't have to worry about whether you can handle it or not. What if instead you decided to make life fun? What if you said, whatever comes my way, I'll deal with it. I'm not afraid. I love challenges. When you live with that mindset, you lift yourself to a higher state of being. That's when life becomes beautiful. Free from constant worry, anxiety, or suffering. The Buddha taught this over 2,500 years ago. He introduced the idea of the Four Noble Truths. The first one says, all life is suffering. At first it might sound negative, but he wasn't trying to discourage anyone. He was just being honest. Suffering isn't just physical pain. It's fear, insecurity, jealousy, and the constant problems we create in our minds. Even if nothing bad is happening right now, we worry that something bad might happen later, or we dwell on things from the past. Rich or poor, healthy or sick, young or old, everyone experiences suffering in some form. The key isn't to avoid it, but to learn how to interact with life differently, with a sense of openness, excitement, and joy. That's what makes life truly worth living. The Buddha taught that all life is suffering. That's the first noble truth. But he didn't stop there. He also explained why we suffer in the second noble truth. And he did it in just a few words, short and simple. Imagine that, summarizing the course of all suffering in a single sentence. He didn't blame sickness, bad relationships, or war for all suffering. Instead, he went deeper. He boldly said, "I understand the cause of all suffering, past, present, and future, for everyone." And what was his answer? Sometimes this is translated as desire, but I prefer the word preference. Why? Because when we hear desire, we think of extreme emotions like greed or lust. But preference, that's simpler and it hits closer to home. A preference is when you want something to happen or not happen a certain way. It's that small, subtle attachment to how things should be. Think about it. You're driving down the road and you see white lines on the pavement. Some are solid, some are dashed, some are yellow. Do you get upset? You don't care if the lines change because you have no preference about them. The lines are there for a purpose. They keep everyone safe. But you're okay with them as they are. Now imagine someone who painted those white lines for a living. This person loved their job, but wasn't very good at it. So the lines they painted were messy and had dribbles. Eventually, they got fired. If they had no preference about losing their job, they'd be fine. But if they did have a preference, like wanting to keep their job, they might see those messy white lines and feel upset, embarrassed, or even ashamed. Their suffering didn't come from the white lines themselves. It came from their preference, a deep wish that things had turned out differently. This is what Buddha meant. Suffering doesn't come from life's events, good or bad. It comes from wanting life to be a certain way and feeling upset when it's not. Preferences are everywhere, and they're what make us uncomfortable when life doesn't match what we expect. But if you let go of those preferences, you'll find that the white lines, whether dashed, solid, or even messy, don't bother you. You can handle them all. That's the lesson. Preferences create suffering, but letting them go leads to peace. Buddha taught that all life is suffering, and the cause of that suffering is preference. What does that really mean? If you don't have preferences, you won't suffer. It's that simple. For example, many of us have a strong preference not to die. That's understandable. But here's the truth. We're all going to die. Pretending it won't happen doesn't change anything. It just sets us up for suffering. If you don't want people to die, you'll feel pain every time you hear about a funeral. You'll grieve deeply every time someone you love passes away. You'll look around as you grow older and see more and more people leaving, and it'll feel overwhelming. That's what preference does. It turns life's natural events, things you can't control, into sources of suffering. Buddha explained it like this. If you want to stop suffering, you have to stop holding on to preferences. This is the third noble truth. To end suffering, you must let go of preference. Now, letting go of preferences doesn't mean you ignore life or try to manipulate it. You don't stop death by wishing it away. And you don't avoid suffering by trying to control everyone around you. You can't make the world cater to your preferences, like wanting everyone to praise you or treat you a certain way. Sure, it might feel nice to imagine people cheering every time you walk into a room, but life doesn't work like that. Instead, the key is acceptance. Deep spiritual teachings aren't about running away from the world or suppressing your desires. They're about learning to live fully without being ruled by preferences. If you think you have to give up everything you love, I must renounce this, avoid that, stay away from people because they upset me, you're not really free. You're just suppressing your feelings and trying to avoid triggers. That's still living with preferences, just in reverse. True freedom comes when you stop clinging to preferences altogether. You don't need to reject the world or run from it. Instead, you accept it as it is, without needing it to change to make you feel okay. That's how you let go of suffering. There's a Zen teaching that starts with a powerful and simple line. It's from the Treatise of Faith Mind by the third Zen patriarch. The Great Way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. This line is about enlightenment, finding peace and clarity. But when people hear it, they often push back. They say, if I don't have preferences, I won't be happy. What's the point of doing anything? Why would I even get out of bed? Fair enough. So let's try a little experiment. Imagine we tweak this beautiful teaching just for you. Just don't tell anyone, okay? Let's change it to say, the Great Way is not difficult for those who prefer everything. Now, do you see what's happening? Preferring everything is the same as having no preferences at all. Isn't that beautiful? If you truly prefer everything, every situation, every challenge, every moment, you'll find peace. The trouble only begins when you get selective, when you say, I want this, but not that. That's when suffering sneaks in. The treatise also says, when love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. But make the slightest distinction, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. In other words, the moment you start dividing life into what you like and don't like, your mind creates stress and separation. Here's an example. Suppose you decide, I don't want to have a car accident. That's a pretty small preference, right? But now, every time you get into a car, you'll worry. You'll tense up if you hear a strange noise or see someone brake suddenly. That one preference can fill your life with fear and anxiety. Or imagine you say, I don't want to get sick. Suddenly, you're constantly checking when you eat, avoiding certain places, wearing masks, and stressing over every little cough or sneeze. It becomes exhausting, doesn't it? What about aging? Many people say, I don't want to get old. I want to stay young and beautiful forever. But the first grey hair or wrinkle will freak them out. They'll spend endless energy trying to fight something that's completely natural. This is what preferences do. They create suffering. Buddha taught this, and I'm just reminding you. But now let's turn it around. What would life be like if you preferred everything? If you embraced life as it comes, including the challenges? Imagine loving the process of getting older. When you prefer aging, you don't stress about grey hair or wrinkles. You stop worrying about what people think because you're okay with yourself. You even find humor in the things you once dreaded. Here's the truth. The Great Way is not difficult for those who prefer everything. If you can embrace life as it comes, rather than trying to fight it, everything changes. Now imagine this for a moment. Wouldn't it be amazing to wake up in the morning and think, today's going to be fun, just because I've decided it will be? What if no one could ruin that for you? That doesn't mean you won't face challenges. It doesn't mean your heart won't hurt sometimes, or that life will always go the way you planned. It means you're okay with whatever happens, simply because it's happening. It's like this. Every day is a new experience, and even the tough moments have something to offer. The problem is, most people try to force life to match their expectations. They want to manipulate situations and control people so everything feels comfortable and predictable. Think about it. Why do we act the way we do? Why do we dress a certain way, buy a certain car, or say certain things? A lot of the time, it's because we're trying to impress others. We want to control how people see us or how they act around us. But why do we crave control so much? It's because deep down, we're not okay. We think, if I can just get everyone to respect me, agree with me, or behave how I want, then I'll feel good. And maybe you do feel good, temporarily. But the moment someone doesn't act the way you want, you're back to feeling upset or insecure. That's exhausting, isn't it? Living that way means you're constantly chasing something outside yourself to feel okay. So, what if you let go of all that? What if you decided to just be okay with life as it is? Imagine waking up each morning and saying, no matter what happens today, I'll handle it. And I'll enjoy it. Instead of needing everything to go your way, you'd start to enjoy life for what it is. A series of moments, each with its own flavor. And guess what? That opens the door to real joy. Right now, most of us have a tiny list of things that can make us truly happy. Think about it. How often do you say, that was one of the best days of my life? Those days are rare, aren't they? Maybe you can count them on one hand. But why should they be rare? Why can't every moment feel alive, meaningful, and beautiful? It's not because life is missing something. It's because we're so busy fighting it, controlling it, or wishing it were different. So here's the challenge. Stop making life small by needing it to fit into your narrow preferences. Instead, open up to the idea that every moment, every single one, can be just as it is, and still be beautiful. That's how you find freedom. That's how you find joy. Picture this. God comes down, big moment, burning bush, the whole dramatic scene, and says, all right, what do you want? 5 things. Your top 5. Tell me. So, you sit there, maybe take your time, and write them down. 5 things you think will make your life perfect. Done, right? But do you realize what you just did? You just shrank your whole life down to 5 things. Out of the billions and billions of possibilities that could happen in this life, you're saying only these 5 will make you happy. That's a crazy way to live, isn't it? Now, let's be real. What are the chances those 5 things will just magically happen on their own? 0. Nada. Nothing. You know that deep down. So what's left? You've got to get to work. That's the reason you feel anxious, worried, or stressed. Because you know those things you want won't just fall into your lap. So, what's the solution? Get busy. Start doing the work. That's on you. But here's the wiser approach. Instead of focusing on chasing those 5 things, trying to control every little detail of your life to make them happen, step back and think bigger. Imagine God saying, okay, I'll give you your 5 things, but also tell me everything that could possibly go wrong, and I'll make sure none of it happens. How long would that list be? Way longer than your top 5, right? And even if you had all the paper in the world, you'd never finish writing down every little thing that might bother you. So, why live like that? Why waste your time making lists and chasing after preferences? What if instead, you just woke up to the truth? Life itself is the gift. Every single moment is a one-of-a-kind experience custom-made for you. Think about it right now, this exact moment. No one else in the history of the universe is experiencing what you are. No one ever has. No one ever will. That's your moment, your private showing of creation. And instead of being blown away by that, you complain because it's not exactly how you wanted it. Crazy, right? You're standing there in a moment that was handcrafted for you, and instead of appreciating it, you're upset. I didn't like what just happened. Or, I want what happened yesterday to happen again. And in doing that, you completely miss the moment you're in right now. How many moments have you already missed because you were busy complaining or wishing things were different? So here's the truth. Life isn't about getting those 5 things or avoiding everything on your don't want list. It's about waking up and realizing that every single second is a miracle. Every moment is a chance to honor, respect, and appreciate the fact that you're alive, right here, right now. God isn't trying to teach you something complicated. It's simple. No one else is having your experience. Not now, not ever. Every breath, every sunrise, every mundane little thing, like looking for your shoes, is uniquely yours. That's a gift. And the best way to honor it is to stop complaining, stop wishing for more, and start being grateful for what's already here. When you truly get that, life changes. You start to see the beauty in everything. You stop chasing, stop controlling, and start appreciating. And that's when you realize, this moment, just as it is enough. Let's keep it simple. Yes, you are absolutely capable. You've got everything you need to handle life. But hey, I get it. You've been through stuff. They took my blanket away too soon. Sound familiar? Why is that still sitting in your mind? That blanket's been gone for years. Mommy's not here anymore. The boyfriend? He left ages ago. Those moments are long gone. So why do they still have power over you? Because you decided to hold on to them. That's the truth. Here's the thing. Life moves on, but you don't always let it. Something happens, and instead of experiencing it and letting it pass, you grab onto it and keep it inside. Let me give you an example. There's a guy who loses his job. He could say, well, I got fired. That's life. And keep going. Or he could hold on to that moment forever, letting it haunt him every time he sees a road with white lines, reminding him of his old commute. See the difference? You don't have to carry every bad moment with you. But you do it, don't you? You let it in and let it stay. Now, let's get real. Life isn't all butterflies and rainbows. Some moments feel like rattlesnakes, not butterflies. That's just the nature of things. Buddhists talk about how everything has its nature. Some things feel great, others hurt. But the point of life is to experience it all. When you go through something, you learn. Before you experienced that moment, you didn't know what it was like. Afterward, you did. That's how you grow. That's how you become more. And that's the whole point of being here. The problem is, instead of experiencing life and letting it flow through you, you fight it. Inside of you, your consciousness, you've got this incredible power called will. You can choose what you let in and what you keep out. Even when something happens outside of you, it's your choice whether it comes all the way in. That's where your power lies. Now think about this. Have you ever had a moment so beautiful, so overwhelming, that you completely melted into it? You weren't even there anymore. Your heart just opened and everything felt perfect. You probably said something like, "It touched me to the depth of my being." Those moments are rare, aren't they? But when they happen, they're unforgettable. They feel divine, like you're in the presence of something greater than yourself. Here's the crazy part. Every single experience in life has the potential to touch you that deeply. Every single one. But most of the time, you don't let it. Why? Because you're afraid you can't handle it. Instead of letting life flow through you, you suppress it. You push it away. You protect yourself. That's suppression, and Freud spent a lot of time talking about it. But Freud mostly focused on the mess you create by suppressing things. What about the part where you are the one doing the suppressing? Let's be honest, you do it all the time. Something comes your way and you push it aside. You protect yourself with excuses, rationalizations, or defenses like, I can't deal with this, or get away from me. You're always on guard, always trying to keep life at a safe distance. But what if you stopped? What if you just let life in? What if you let yourself experience everything? The good, the bad, and the overwhelming, and let it pass through you instead of holding onto it or fighting it. That's the key. Stop holding on. Stop pushing away. Let life flow through you, moment by moment. That's where your freedom is. That's where your growth is. And that's where you find the beauty of being alive. Do you or do you not push things away? Be honest. Because when you push something away, you're not actually getting rid of it. You're storing it inside. And guess what? Once it's in there, it stays. It doesn't just disappear. Life has a way of bringing it back up, doesn't it? A smell, a word, a person, it doesn't matter. That old memory or feeling finds its way back. Hypnotism can dig it up. Random life moments will too. Isn't it true? The worst experience you ever had keeps showing up, doesn't it? A hat reminds you of someone. A name makes your heart skip a beat. It's all in there because you put it in there. So why did you do that to yourself? Here's how it works. Your preferences, what you like and don't like, come from all that old stuff you've stored inside. You didn't sit down one day and choose, I like this and I hate that. No, your past experiences programmed you. For example, if the person who broke your heart in high school wore a certain hat, that memory got stuck inside you. Now, years later, you see someone wearing that same kind of hat, and boom, you feel bad all over again. Why? Because you stored that pain, and now you associate it with the hat. Or maybe your ex-husband's name was Ben, and he treated you terribly. Now you're at a party, and someone yells, Ben! Where are you? It doesn't matter if you're halfway across the world. You hear that name, and your chest tightens. Why? Because you tied that name to all that hurt, and now it's stuck inside you. That's how it works. This is why you have preferences. If it was a good experience, you want more of it. If it was bad, you'll do everything you can to avoid it. That's what creates your likes and dislikes. Buddha once said, "The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences." Now it makes sense, doesn't it? Your preferences aren't really about what's happening now. They're about all the junk you've stored from the past. Let me give you another example. Someone offers you something you've never tried before. You take a bite, and it's disgusting. Now you say, I'll never eat that again. Or maybe it's amazing, and you're like, can I have more? That's how it works. Every experience programs you, shaping your preferences. And if your preferences are running your life, how can you live fully in the moment? Here's the problem. All that stuff you've stored is keeping you from being present. Instead of experiencing what's happening right now, you're busy trying to make life fit into what you like and avoid what you don't like. You're stuck in a constant struggle to control reality. And let's be real, that's exhausting. But here's the good news. If that's the problem, then the solution is simple. Yes, there are all kinds of techniques out there. Meditation, mantras, breathing exercises, even fancy gadgets for your brain. Those can help, and if they work for you, great. But let me tell you a secret. None of that will truly free you until you stop pushing things away. You have to learn to let life touch you, even the things you don't like. Yes, even the hard stuff. That's the key. Stop letting your past control you. Stop pushing things away. Let life in. Let it touch you, even when it's uncomfortable. That's how you free yourself to live fully in the moment. I'm not here to tell you how to deal with life. That's not my job. It's yours. But let me remind you of something. Imagine this. You somehow end up on Mars. You're all alone, sitting in the middle of endless red dirt and dust. Nobody else made it. No friends, no family, no other living soul. At first, maybe you're fine. You'll sit there for a few hours, maybe even a couple of days, trying to process it. But then, out of nowhere, a roach, yes, a roach, comes scurrying across the Martian sand. Now think about this. Instead of trying to kill it, you'd probably be thrilled. You'd chase that little guy, not to get rid of it, but to make friends. Hey, where'd you come from? You're from Earth? Wow, a fellow Earthling. You'd suddenly see that roach as company, a connection to something familiar. Why? Because in that moment, your perspective changes. That roach isn't a nuisance anymore. It's a miracle. So, why can't you see life that way now? The truth is, you can. You just have to stop shoving things deep down inside because you think you can't handle them. That's the key. How do you stop doing that? Simple. Learn to handle things. If the only things you're suppressing are the things you can't deal with, then you've got two options. Either you make sure those things never happen, good luck with that, or you figure out how to deal with reality as it comes. And let me tell you, learning to handle life is the better choice. Look, if it's raining outside and you wish it wasn't, you're suffering. You're fighting reality. But if it's raining and you stop to think, wow, how amazing is it that water falls from the sky on this planet? Then everything changes. Do you know what rains on Venus? Sulfuric acid. Yeah, acid rain. So maybe we should be a little grateful that on Earth, it's just water falling from the clouds. It's all about how you choose to see it. I've told you this so many times. If you change the way you look at something, your experience of it changes too. You might even start to enjoy it. See, life is like that. You don't have to fight it or shove it away. You can learn to respect it, even the hard parts. Whether it's rain, heat, or a roach running across the floor, you can choose to let it touch you instead of ruin you. And when you do, life becomes something beautiful, something you can marvel at no matter what. Start using your higher mind, your intellectual mind, not the personal mind that's been cluttered with all the junk you've piled in there throughout your life. That personal mind is full of opinions, preferences, dreams, and concepts you've built over time. Why is it junk? Because it's ever-changing and completely subjective. One day you believe one thing, and the next, your mind shifts because someone said something or something happened. You can love someone deeply, and then, just because of a single comment or rumor, suddenly you're unsure about them. That's how fickle the personal mind is. It's not built on truth, but truth, that doesn't change. Look at the sun. It's been 93 million miles away for 4.5 billion years. That's truth. It doesn't care about your preferences or opinions. It just is. If you let your foundation rest on truth instead of your ever-changing mind, then you can handle reality. Because truth and reality are the same thing. When your foundation is truth, life doesn't shake you so easily. You're grounded. And once you align yourself with truth, you begin to enjoy life in a whole new way. For example, ever since I had this realization, I can't help but pause and feel grateful every time I step outside and feel the heat of the sun. I think to myself, wow, I'm standing on this tiny planet, orbiting this massive star, a star so big that 1.3 million Earths could fit inside it. And I remember that all we're really doing, year after year, is orbiting that star. Someone asks, "What did you do this year?" You could say, "I completed a giant circle around the sun." That's it. That's what we all do. Just orbit a star. And guess what? You only get about 89 of these trips around the sun if you're lucky. So why not enjoy every single one of them? Nothing is stopping you from doing this. Absolutely nothing. Just stop for a moment and think about it. That sun, that star we orbit, is just one of 300 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy. And how far away is the next closest star to us? 4.3 light years. Now that number might not mean much at first, but let me break it down. Light travels fast. In 1 second, a beam of light can circle the Earth 7.5 times. Now imagine that speed, every second, for an entire year. That's 1 light year. And the next closest star to us is 4.3 light years away. That's mind-blowing, right? And remember, there are 300 billion stars in our galaxy alone, all spaced that far apart. And beyond that, there are 2 trillion galaxies in the universe. 2 trillion. So let me ask you, with all of that vastness, what exactly are you worrying about? What's freaking you out? Think about the scale of reality, about how vast and extraordinary this universe is. And then ask yourself, does the little stuff really matter? You're here for just a short time, floating through space on this tiny planet. And yet, you let tiny, insignificant things ruin your peace. Why? It's time to work with yourself. It's time to rise above the smallness of your personal mind. You've been given this incredible existence in an awe-inspiring universe. And you're spending it stressing over what? Someone said something mean? You spilled coffee? You didn't get the job you wanted. Put it in perspective. Start expanding your frame of reference. See the bigger picture. Science can help with this. Science is beautiful. It shows us just how remarkable and infinite reality truly is. So why not let the understanding lift you up? Let it open your mind. Stop getting caught up in trivial worries and instead marvel at the sheer wonder of existence. You're part of something far greater than you can imagine. Isn't that worth celebrating? You don't have to be a scientist to appreciate what's happening in the universe. You just need to pay attention to what scientists are discovering. Look at what tools like the Hubble and James Webb telescopes are showing us. They're literally peeking into the vastness of reality. Meanwhile, most of us are sitting here, stressing over a fraction of reality, the tiniest sliver imaginable. Think about it. You're focused on what you like or don't like, your personal opinions and preferences. But in the grand scheme of things, that's statistically insignificant. Why not open up? That's what it means to expand your perspective. So, what can you do? Work on yourself. Raise yourself. Break free from that tiny box. You don't change your life by getting everything you want. You change your life by expanding your awareness, by realizing just how miraculous and vast life is. For example, look at a random person. You don't even have to know them. That person is made up of 25 to 30 trillion living cells, all working together in harmony to form their body. Trillions! And those cells communicate with each other constantly to keep that person alive. How can you not respect that? How can you not stand in awe of the sheer miracle of their existence? And yet, we let the smallest things divide us. Oh, she has different opinions than me. I can't respect her. Why? Everyone's mind is just a product of their learned experiences. Every thought they have, every belief they hold, is shaped by what they've been through. Your mind is no different. You see the world the way you do because of everything you've learned and experienced. And guess what? It feels right to you, doesn't it? You've got your own evidence to back it up. Well, so do they. That's why people think differently. They've lived differently. That's where compassion comes in. That's where understanding begins. This doesn't mean you stop standing up for what you believe in. You're here to express yourself, to play the game of life. But don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Don't get stuck in your mind, believing it's the ultimate truth. It's not. Your mind is just a collection of what you've learned. And compared to the infinite reality around you, how much are you really aware of? Almost nothing. For every experience you're aware of, you're missing billions, trillions, an unfathomable number of other experiences. So, why not start paying attention? Open yourself up to the vastness of life. Let go of the petty worries and rigid opinions. The universe is so much bigger than your personal mind. And the more you realize that, the more free and alive you'll feel. The universe is waiting for you to notice it. Why not start now? How many experiences are happening around you right now? Everywhere, all at once. Millions, billions, maybe even infinite. And how many of those are you actually aware of? Probably none of them. You're missing everything. That's just the truth of it. People say, I don't want to miss anything. But the reality is, you're already missing almost everything. And you always will. That's just how life works. So what does that mean? It means you should start appreciating the experience you're having. Whatever it is, good or bad, happy or sad, this moment is the only one you're not missing. Let it in. Let it touch you. It's right here. And it's yours. But here's the thing. You've got to learn how to do that. You've got to learn how to stay open to life. Most of us spend all our time pushing things away. Pushing away thoughts, feelings, memories, and even things that haven't happened yet, but might happen. Think about it. How often do you find yourself saying, I don't want to deal with that, or I can't handle that, or even, I don't want to go there because it'll remind me of something painful? You're not just avoiding reality, you're avoiding the very idea of it. And why? Because you've got all this old junk stored up inside you, things you couldn't handle in the past. Sure, maybe you had a tough childhood. That's valid. But let me ask you this. Are you still a child? Number. So why are you letting something from 30 years ago control your life today? If your childhood was hard and you left home at 16, why is that pain still running the show now that you're 43? It's not your childhood itself that's the problem. It's the fact that you stored it. You shoved it down deep because you couldn't handle it at the time. And now, here it is, popping back up to decide what you will or won't do with your life. For example, my parents got divorced, so I'm never getting married. Why? Because I don't want my kids to go through what I did. But you don't even have kids yet. See how that works? Something that happened when you were 12 is still making your decisions today. That's not freedom. That's just letting old pain run your life. So what's the answer? Stop storing the junk. Deal with it. You don't have to carry it around forever. Sure, it's easier said than done. But it's not impossible. here's a simple technique. A moment is always unfolding in front of you. Learn to be okay with it. That's it. Be okay with the moment. Accept it as it is. Don't judge it. Don't fight it. Just let it exist. When you stop resisting life, something amazing happens. You start to notice that more and more moments feel good. Why? Because you're not busy labeling them as good or bad. You're just letting them be. And when you do that, you begin to see life differently. You start respecting it. You see the beauty in every person, in every experience, even in the things you don't understand or agree with. Take people, for instance. You meet someone, and maybe you don't like them, or they've done something you don't agree with. But if you stop and really think about it, that person is a whole universe of experiences you'll never know. Their body is made up of 30 trillion cells, all working together. That alone is incredible. And their mind? It's shaped by every moment they've lived. Even if they've made bad choices or hurt others, they are still a human being, shaped by circumstances you can't fully understand. Does that mean you excuse bad behavior? Number. If someone's dangerous or harmful, you don't have to engage with them. But you don't have to hate them either. You can understand that their actions come from pain or confusion, and that understanding brings compassion. Compassion doesn't mean you agree with them or let them harm you. It just means you see them as a fellow human being who, like you, is navigating life as best they can. Life is vast, and you don't have to shrink yourself to fit inside a tiny box of old memories and fears. Open up, let life in, and watch how it transforms everything. Nobody's here to dictate your life. The real advice is simple. First, honor and respect what's happening in front of you. Then, decide how you're going to deal with it. That's it. If you approach life from that place of clarity, being open, honest, and not weighed down by the junk you've stored inside, you can't go wrong. There's no universal right or wrong answer here. The point is to act from clarity, not from old messy programming or someone else's baggage. For example, maybe you grew up hearing your parents say, "Drug dealers and users are terrible people. Stay away from them. They're disgusting and shouldn't even exist." Fine, they taught you that. But does that mean you have to let their opinions shape your entire view of the world? Number, you can look at that belief now and think, okay, maybe mom and dad weren't seeing things too clearly. They had their own biases. That's what freedom is about. Waking up and breaking free from those old stored beliefs. You can let them go. You don't need to carry them around anymore. When you release that stuff, you can walk through life with an open and clear mind. And guess what? When you're open and clear, you'll make better decisions. Your life will feel lighter, brighter, and more meaningful. And as a bonus, the people around you will benefit from your clarity too. When you live this way, open and untethered, you start to notice something incredible. Energy begins to flow through you. It's like a natural wellspring that just keeps rising. Every morning, you'll wake up feeling that flow. It's not something you have to search for or create. It's just there, alive inside you. You don't need the day to give you energy because you already have more than enough from within. You wake up already full, already alive. Imagine starting your day like that, so energized and connected that even brushing your teeth feels like an enjoyable, buzzing moment. Breakfast? It's not just food anymore. It's a miracle. You sit there and realize this food came from the earth. That cornflake in your bowl, it started as a tiny seed. Someone dropped it into the dirt, and from that seed came an entire cornstalk. Think about it. Dirt, sunlight, and water somehow created a plant that feeds you. Who made that happen? Not you, not the farmer. The seed knew how to transform itself. It broke down the soil, absorbed water and minerals, and turned into something new. That's a miracle. How does that not blow your mind? But here's the problem. Most of us are too busy to notice. We're trapped in our heads, caught up in our preferences, our hurts, our desires, and all the things we think we need. That's why we miss the miracles happening all around us. So here's the lesson. Use your mind in a better way. Instead of obsessing over your worries or past pains, use your higher, intellectual mind to honor and respect the moment right in front of you. Start small. Little by little, learn to appreciate the unfolding of life as it happens. Every moment is a gift. Every experience is part of the miracle of existence. When you live like this, open and aware, life will reveal its beauty to you. And that's when you'll truly feel alive. This is my advice to you. Learn to honor, respect, and appreciate life, whatever it brings. When you do that, you'll find that even the difficult moments become lighter, even enjoyable in a strange way. Why? Because you've learned to handle them. It's not about avoiding what feels bad. It's about growing stronger so those things don't control you anymore. Here's the secret. You have the right to live high. I mean truly high. Not in some artificial, drug-induced way, but in a state of pure inner bliss. And as you keep letting go of the junk that weighs you down, you'll realize you're capable of handling things you never thought you could. With each step, you get stronger, more open, more alive. Think about being madly in love. When you're so deeply in love, nothing bothers you. If someone insults you, you just brush it off like it's nothing. You're too full of love to care. That's what it feels like to live in a state of inner freedom. When you're that high, the small stuff, and even the big stuff, just can't touch you. And if something does start to pull you down, you learn to let it go. Why? Because you don't want to come down. You don't need drugs or alcohol to feel better because you've discovered something so much greater within yourself. You're a deeply beautiful being, far beyond what you can even imagine right now. But here's the thing. You've buried that beauty under a pile of old garbage. Past pain, stored negativity, unresolved fears. That's what blocks your energy and makes life feel heavy. So what do? You let it go. Start small. Let go of the little annoyances. The weather, someone's driving, a rude comment. Then, as you get stronger, you'll be able to let go of the bigger things. Eventually, you'll reach a point where you can handle anything. Pain, disappointment, challenges, it won't matter. You'll face it all with love, clarity, and strength. And from that high place, you'll be able to make the best decisions for your life. Here's a simple mantra for you. I can handle this. Say it to yourself when life feels hard. Whisper it when you're uncertain. Shout it if you have to. It doesn't matter what the situation is, big or small. Just repeat, I can handle this. Because you can. Learn to raise yourself. That's the journey. Bit by bit, moment by moment, you'll free yourself from everything that's been holding you back. You'll discover the incredible beauty that's been inside you all along. And when you do, life becomes a miracle, a gift you honor and respect every single day. Thank you for listening.